It is a joy when the winter fades away and the spring starts to show up all around us. I find reading to be especially enjoyable in the springtime as the days get longer and nature is in full bloom. In celebration of this dreamy season, I have compiled a list of 12 classic books, hoping that you may find your next springtime read. Number 1. The Blue Castle by Ella Montgomery. The Blue Castle, published in 1926, opens as the protagonist, 29-year-old Valency Sterling, has her birthday dismissed by the Sterling family's annual May picnic. Valency is seen as an old maid by her nagging mother and judgmental extended family, who treat her like a child, and she only finds escape through daydreams of a blue castle and by reading nature books. When Valency is diagnosed with a fatal heart condition, a fact she hides from her family, Valency decides to live for herself, leading her family to believe that she has gone mad. Valency chooses to live independently when she becomes a housekeeper for her sick childhood friend Sissy. She also meets Barney Snaith, who the town believes is a criminal and who she eventually marries. The pair live a secluded yet joyful life together in his home on Mistawis Lake, which she sees as her blue castle. And indeed, Montgomery reflects this through her gorgeous descriptions of Valency's natural surroundings. The Blue Castle is a wonderful tale of self-discovery, new beginnings, and love. Number 2. Gigi by Colette. Gigi is a 1944 novella about a young lady's education as a future courtesan in Paris, which was the source material for the 1958 MGM American musical film Gigi, directed by Vincent Minnelli. The main character, 15-year-old Gigi, is a girl raised by her overprotective grandmother who has a hyperfixation on the girl's reputation. Disappointed that her daughter had not pursued a career as a courtesan, Gigi's grandmother plans for Gigi to grow up and provide companionship for wealthy men, enrolling her in lessons on how to fit into high society. The story also features the family friend Gaston Lachaille, a sugar magnate and playboy who remains friendly with Gigi. When Gaston falls in love with her, she decides to live life on her own terms, refusing to be just another fleeting conquest for the young man. Not only is this novel an interesting study of a young woman's upbringing for a future as a courtesan, it also has the beautiful setting of fin de siècle Paris in the springtime. Number 3. Spring Torrents by Ivan Turgenev. This 1872 novella begins with Dmitri Sanin, now a middle-aged man, who reminisces about his time in Frankfurt as a 22-year-old, a time during which he meets Gemma Rosselli. Sanin becomes enchanted with Gemma, as the hospitality of the Rossellis allow him to enjoy her company. Sanin reflects on Gemma's fiancé Kluber and the drunken soldier who insulted Gemma while the three were out. What follows is a confession of love and emotional confusion as Sanin outlines the changing nature of his relationship with Gemma. The lack of natural descriptions does not inhibit the novel's perfection as a springtime read. In fact, Turgenev frames the entire story in Chapter 1 with the lines, "Years of gladness, days of joy, like the torrents of spring, they hurried away," quoted from an old ballad. Lines which reflect the tempestuous and flawed relationship between Sanin and Gemma. Number 4. Pat of Silver Bush by L.M. Montgomery. This 1933 novel follows Pat and tells the story of this young girl who lives in Silverbush, a small town in Prince Edward Island, Canada. Throughout the story set in the springtime, Pat's family members leave town, including her mother, who marries, and her brother, Joe, who leaves to become a sailor. Pat's love for her home and her reluctance to change is evident, as she maintains a strong friendship with her neighbor Hilary and her friend Elizabeth. As she lives her teenage years, Pat experiences young love, but must come to terms with her inability to part with her home, as she has little aspirations beyond caring for her family and Silverbush. Montgomery is truly a master of writing characters who are delighted by nature, as seen through Pat's love of her farm at Silverbush. Quote, Pat loved every field on the farm. She and Sidney had explored every one of them together. To her, they were not just fields, they were persons. The big hill field that was in wheat this spring and was now like a huge green carpet, the field of the pool which had in its very center a dimple of water, as if some giantess when earth was young had pressed the tip of her finger down into the soft ground. Number 5. Spring Snow by Yukio Mishima. The springtime novel, published in 1965, is set in 1912 during the early Taisho period in Japan and focuses on the relationship between Kiyoaki Matsuge, a wealthy young man, and Satoko Ayakura, a young woman from a declining aristocratic family. Kiyoaki meets Satoko during a family gathering and eventually becomes aware of Satoko's feelings for him, though he pretends not to care. Kiyoaki is depicted as an emotionally confused man who names Satoko his sweetheart even after sending her an insulting letter. In addition to the depictions of romantic misunderstandings and a man's complex pride, the novel explores broad themes of societal changes in Japan due to Western influence. Number 6. The Mill on the Floss by George Eliot. George Eliot's 1860 novel, set after the Napoleonic Wars, follows Maggie Tulliver, the main character, who is 9 years old at the beginning of the story. Spanning a period of about 15 years, the novel details the lives of Maggie and Tom Tulliver, siblings who grow up at Dorlcote Mill on the River Floss. Maggie has a complex relationship with her brother Tom, as well as her two eventual love interests, Philip and Stephen. Maggie's life is tainted by her conflicts with Tom, their family struggles, bankruptcy, and their father's death. When Tom leaves to attend school and help the family financially, Maggie feels trapped in their impoverished home. Ultimately, Maggie faces a choice between her past commitments and new desires, as her responsibilities in love and family eventually clash. George Eliot really knows how to create the perfect ambiance through writing, as the natural region is vividly painted through her descriptions. Quote, Early in the following April, nearly a year after that dubious parting you have just witnessed, you may, if you like, again see Maggie entering the red deeps through the group of Scotch firs. But it is early afternoon and not evening, and the edge of sharpness in the spring air makes her draw her large shawl close about her and trip along rather quickly, though she looks round as usual, that she may take in the sight of her beloved trees. Number 7. Illyrian Spring by Anne Bridge. The 1935 novel is set in the 1930s and focuses on protagonist Grace Stanway, known as Lady Kilmichael, who leaves home to paint and escape her demanding family, which includes her husband Sir Walter and their 3 children. While she loves them, she feels underappreciated and suspects Walter of having an affair, and so leaves without telling them where she is going, embarking on a painting trip to the Dalmatian coast of Yugoslavia. On her journey, she meets Nicholas, a young man struggling to pursue painting against his father's wishes, and the pair's unusual relationship eventually gets enmeshed in romantic desires as they develop a deep bond. Number 8. The Pursuit of Love by Nancy Mitford. Published in 1940, The Pursuit of Love is a novel by Nancy Mitford and the first novel in Mitford's trilogy about an upper-class English family in the interwar period. With springtime scenes, The Pursuit of Love focuses on the romantic life of Linda Radlett, as narrated by her cousin Fanny Loken. The narrator Fanny is raised by her aunt Emily and Emily's husband Davy after her parents abandon her. Linda, on the other hand, grows up in a bizarre environment obsessed with hunting and receives little formal education along with her siblings. As Linda matures, she yearns for love and marriage and is jealous of her older sister Louisa when she quickly gets engaged to an older Scottish peer, Lord Fort William. Soon after begins a succession of reckless exploits by Linda up until the beginnings of World War II. Number 9. A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. The semi-autobiographical 1943 novel, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, is the perfect book for those of us who live in constant anticipation of the springtime. Francie Nolan is introduced at the beginning of the novel as an 11-year-old who lives in a Brooklyn tenement with her brother Neely and their parents Johnny and Katie. When the book opens in 1912, the family lives in poverty. All the while, Francie's father Johnny struggles with alcoholism, and as the breadwinner, Katie's existence focuses on survival. After settling into a new home, Francie moves to a better school and discovers a joy of learning, but cannot pursue her studies into high school as she is forced to work. A Tree Grows in Brooklyn is a classic coming-of-age novel, since as the years go by, Francie experiences heartbreak and makes difficult decisions that prove her resilience. Number 10. The Razor's Edge by W. Somerset Maugham. The 1944 novel tells of a man wounded and traumatized by World War I named Larry Darrell, who returns to Chicago and tells his fiancée, Isabel Bradley, that he does not want to work, wishing to live off his inheritance and delay their marriage. Unable to accept his choice, Isabel ends their engagement and marries another wealthy man. Afterward, Larry moves to Paris, embracing a carefree life of study and travel, taking up a position at a coal mine in France, where he befriends Costi, who inspires him to seek spiritual truths. Larry's spiritual questions lead him to India, where he eventually experiences enlightenment. This novel beautifully captures how the characters grapple with life's changes in different ways, and has many lovely descriptions of Paris in the springtime. Number 11. An Old-Fashioned Girl by Louisa May Alcott. An Old-Fashioned Girl is a novel first published in 1869 by famed author Louisa May Alcott, which follows the adventures of Polly Milton, a 14-year-old country girl who is visiting her wealthy city friend Fanny Shaw in Boston. Polly feels out of place in the luxurious lifestyle since she's ridiculed by Fanny's brother Tom and is ignored by Fanny's friends. Polly's kindness and sincerity win the hearts of the snobbish Shaw family. After 6 years, Polly returns to Boston as a music teacher and attends the opera with Fanny and Tom when she attracts the attention of Mr. Sidney. Polly subsequently struggles with her feelings for Tom and for Mr. Sidney, all the while wishing to protect her friendship with Fanny. The novel concludes in the springtime, where Polly is shown to have had a positive influence on the Shaws. Number 12. Howard's End by E.M. Forster. E.M. Forster's Howard's End, published in 1910, follows the Schlegel sisters, two idealistic women who form a friendship with the wealthy Wilcox family while in Germany. Helen Schlegel becomes engaged to Paul Wilcox at the Wilcox's country house, Howard's End, but quickly breaks it off. The sisters' lives intersect with Leonard Bast, after Helen mistakenly takes Leonard's umbrella at a concert. Soon after, the Wilcoxes move to London, and Margaret befriends Ruth Wilcox, who, before dying, writes a note stating that she will leave Howard's End to Margaret. However, Ruth's husband Henry and his children hide this note. Whilst Margaret and Henry develop a romantic relationship, Leonard and his wife experience financial struggles due to some advice Henry gave them. The characters' lives all seem to orbit around the existence of Howard's End, which is a very important setting and is the center of idyllic descriptions of country living. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more, be sure to like and subscribe.